get that for us.
Oh, yeah.
Most of those mobile home parks don't have much room for a fire truck or water, you know?
Yeah. That's, it's interesting to see. Did you go out there and look at this?
Folks, we're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Has everybody that wanted to speak tonight had a chance to sign in over at the table to my left? If not, now's your time to do that. If you want to speak, that's how we're going to call you up.
By my watch.
Looks good to me.
6:29. Still got people walking in.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call the Morgan County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for July 26, 2021 to order. We do have a quorum this evening with 4 members present. Mr. Rumbaugh, if you care to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Rumbaugh. Can you guys hear me okay back there in the back? If not, there's plenty of empty seats up front if you guys want to move. Folks, want to move up front. A copy of the minutes were sent out to all of us from our last meeting. Were there any changes, corrections, additions, or deletions to be made to the minutes?
Have you read the minutes? I would move we approve them as sent.
Motion to approve the minutes as sent. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The minutes are approved. We have an agenda that was sent out to us this evening. Are there any changes, corrections, additions, or deletions to the agenda? Seeing that we have none, open for a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as sent to us.
You have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the agenda as sent, please raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Peden, if you would please swear in those who are going to speak this evening, we'd appreciate that.
All of you who want to address the board with the respect giving testimony in this prescribed judicial proceeding, in your testimony, you take an oath to tell the truth. If you want to address the board, please raise your right hand. I'll oath. You and each of you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Thank you, Mr. Peden. For those of you who haven't been here before, welcome. I've been assured that the county's current on their electric bill, and we'll have air conditioning for the duration of the meeting this evening. What we do is we'll call up one public hearing after another, and when we call it up, we'll ask the person applying for the permit to come up first, and they're going to stand at the podium and speak into the microphone. And they're going to address the board. And then the board has a chance to ask them questions if we choose to do so, which we always do. Then we'll hear others speak, either on behalf of or in opposition to the application. Then we close the public portion of the meeting. So what that means is we're not going to take testimony anymore unless a board member requests somebody come back up and speak and answer questions. We ask that the only time that you speak to the board is when you're standing at the podium and when I've called you up to the podium. Raising your hand doesn't do anything for me. I'll call you up in the order that you've signed up on the sheets. If, when I call your name, you've decided that you don't care to address the board this evening, that's fine. Just let me know that you choose not to speak. And we'll move on to the next person. All right. Our first item on the agenda this evening is under old business, and for this application, this is public hearing U-21-04. Dennis and Carrie Pennington are requesting a use variance for an accessory dwelling that has already been constructed. The property is located at 8890 North Pennington Road in Madison Township and is zoned R2. And for this application, I have two persons signed up in support of, first being Dennis Pennington. Mr. Pennington, if you would come up, and everyone who's speaking, just a reminder to start off with your name and address. We would appreciate that. If you're the applicant, then tell the board why you need the request that you filed for and why we should approve it. Mr. Pennington.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you. My name is Dennis Pennington. I live at 8890 North Pennington Road. And I'm asking for the continuance because I've not yet got the contractor selected to do the work.
How long a continuance?
I haven't selected the contractor, so I'm not sure how long it'll take them once they say yes to the job. So 60 days.
Thank you.
We first had this on the agenda for last month. Is that correct?
Correct.
And at that time, we issued a continuance on this. And what was the reason behind that?
So what happened was I purchased a house 4 years ago. It has a secondary unit, which is a garage, but it also has an apartment in it. And the apartment has a septic system that apparently didn't have a proper permit pulled for it when it was put in. So when I called the health department, they said I needed to have someone out to inspect it to see what it was. When I had the inspection done, I called back the health department and said, hey, here's what they found. Here's how many fingers are with the system. And I was told at that time it didn't make any difference because it was already covered up. There was no way to approve it and have it basically in compliance. So I'd have to have it basically torn out or crushed and started over again.
So that was 30 days ago, and you haven't found a contractor yet, but you need another 60 days to do that?
Well, they'll have to do the work, so I'm figuring 60 days before it's completed. I found a contractor. I've gotten one estimate so far, but I really don't want to go with just one estimate. I'd like to have multiple. It seems like everybody that I've talked to so far is running into scheduling issues because they're all busy.
Other questions from the board members?
Just offhand, you're sure you can handle this in 60 days?
I'm not 100% sure because, like I said, I haven't gotten anybody that said, yes, I can do the job.
Yeah.
But, I mean, financially, it's ready to go. I just need the contractor selected and going forward.
I guess Mrs. Parker, if he selects a contractor, where are we then? Still dead in the water because he has not got it satisfactorily completed, or what? Thank you.
Okay.
I'd have no objections to 60 days, but that'd be the last one.
I don't either.
No, I don't either.
Before you make a motion, I'll ask if, where's my sign-in sheet here for this one? Oh, in my hand. Carrie Pennington, did you have anything you wanted to add to this? Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to approve it for a 60-day extension. The item number D-21-07.
Second.
So I have a
Take that
motion
back.
and,
Take it back.
I'm sorry, do you
Sorry
have
about
something to add, Fred?
Sorry about that. U-21-04.
I have a motion and a second to continue U-21-04 for 60 days. That would put us into our September meeting. So you'll need to get the date from the Plan Commission office for that meeting. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Our first item on the agenda under new business is public hearing D-21-07. Michael Hendershot is requesting a development standard variance for a rear yard setback for construction of room addition and deck. The property is located at 2481 East Stafford Place in Washington Township and is zoned R2. For this application, I have just Michael Hendershot signed up to speak this evening. Mr. Hendershot?
My name is Michael Hendershot. I live at 2481 East Stafford Place in Martinsville. I'm requesting a rear setback variance for a proposed addition. The setback will be against a set of properties that I own, and it'll provide it's an irregular shaped lot, so there's some challenges to actually fit an addition onto that lot, as well as there was challenges back in 2014 to put our house on that lot as well, which is why we requested a variance at that time.
Questions from the board members?
I don't have any.
Go ahead. How big of a structure are you planning on putting in there?
I'm sorry?
How big of a structure are you planning on putting in there?
It'll be 876 square feet, single story attached to one side of the house.
You speak with the neighbor that borders the side of your property where the new construction is going to be, Mr. Henderson.
Have I spoken with them?
Have you?
So the property where it'll be, where the rear setback is I own that property. The adjacent property, which is an existing house, the Rubles, the HOA requires me to notify all the neighbors of the proposed projects, which I have done.
Okay, all right.
The homeowners association has no problems with this.
They have approved it, yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I understand here that the vacate and replat, I assume you're paying the assessments of all the lots.
So those pieces of property in the rear are not part of the association, so there are no assessments against that. The lot that the house stands on is part of the association, and I do pay assessments on that.
Thank you. I don't see any problem with this.
Other questions from the board members?
No, I don't have anything. We've been through this, basically the same thing before.
Thank you. All right, I have no one else signed up to speak on behalf of or in opposition to this request. This is an application for a development standard variance. So at this point, we'll close our public meeting, go into a public hearing. The applicant has written, on the findings of facts. Number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, again, the applicant writes, the addition will be built to required building standards with appropriate erosion control, utility connections, and drainage. Exterior will blend with the existing surrounding homes. Variance request impacts property at rear of existing home and is located in an undeveloped wooded section outside the Fox Cliff Association tract. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant writes, the adjacent property is owned by the applicant and is part of an undeveloped section platted decades ago but never developed. There is no finished road or utility connections for lots in this undeveloped section. The applicant owns 4 adjacent lots in this undeveloped section. Number 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because, and the applicant writes, the strict application of the ordinance will require the addition to be moved towards the front of the existing house and the following practical difficulties. The addition will protrude 55 feet in front of the existing house and block 3 side windows of the neighbor's house. Doorway between the existing house and addition would be 32 inches, which is less than ADA recommended. Number 3, deck could not be extended to reach rear of addition, thus eliminating a practical egress point. Number 4, small addition will minimize amenities for elderly parent. And number 5, alternative to adjacent or to vacant replat lots 411 and 428 was not approved by the HOA Board of Directors. Instead, they support proceeding with a variance request. For the technical reports, I don't see any. Staff's recommendation, they state setbacks are intended to create open space and separation between structures that are appropriate for that particular zoning district. The petitioner owns the adjacent lot, which is heavily wooded. Even in the event that the lot was someday developed, there would still be the ability to create sufficient separation from any new residents. Furthermore, the HOA has already approved the proposed room addition and deck with a reduced setback. Because the petitioner has satisfied the findings of facts and for the reasons stated above, staff recommends approval of this petition. And I'll just note that in our application, in front of the board members, we have a letter dated July 21st, 2021 from the Fox Cliff Community Association Building Control Committee in favor of the applicant's request. Conversation amongst the board, discussion.
Seems logical.
I don't see a problem with it. As I say, we've been basically through this route before. I don't see it's going to be a problem.
I would support this as well. The applicant owns the property that he's going to be infringing on, owns that as well as the lot that he's building on with the addition. So I would be in support of this. Other discussion? Open for a motion.
I would move to approve petition D-21-07 for a development standard variance for the reduced rear yard setback. That's,
Do you care to read in the?
well, I move to approve the request made by Michael Henderson for petition D-21-07 for a development standard variance for the reduced rear yard setback to 1/2 foot property located in Washington Township at 2481 East Stafford Place, Martinsville, Indiana. This motion is made for the reasons stated in the following facts. The approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because A, the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding of fact. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because A, the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding of fact. 3, the strict application of the terms and conditions will result in the practical difficulties for the use of the property because A, the reason stated in petitioner's finding of fact.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve with no conditions. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Thank you very much. Folks, you're welcome to stay once we've heard yours, but you're not required to by any means. What's that? All right, our next item on the agenda this evening is Public Hearing U-21-06. Nicholas Sears is requesting permission to live in a camper parked in a pole barn for up to 1 year prior to being issued a permit for construction of a permanent dwelling. The property is located at 3957 Kramer Road in Baker Township and is zoned for ag. On this application this evening, I have 4 people signed up in support of, 2 in opposition, and 4 as interested in the petition. Mr. Sears, if you would come forward.
Good evening. Yes, we're asking for up to 1 year to live as we have been. So we've been there about 90 days. We built a 60 by 64 by 16 pole barn. With this meeting tonight, it seems apparent that we may have gotten the cart before the horse, and that's why we're here to try to get that set straight and be in compliance. We thought we were, but we were wrong. We applied for a driveway permit, a mailbox permit, a building permit, and a septic permit. We didn't try to hide anything. If anything, we were transparently wrong by doing all permits, all inspections, even a Facebook post to show that we were proud to live out in the country where our family grew up out on Kramer Road. So there was no hiding anything. We were very transparent. In the 90 days we've lived there, we've had no issues with any of our neighbors. We've had no safety issues, no injuries. We've lived there 25% of a year, and we're asking for 1 year from this meeting in order to have our home built in the back section of that, whatever that is, quadrilateral. We reside mostly in a 36-foot camper with bunkhouse. We have a finished room in the building and bathroom with HVAC. We've used all local experts in our process so far that include Brad Rowe Designs, Quinn Whitney Built Homes, Jim Adams Excavating and Septic, Weiss Brothers Construction, Tom Seasting, and Stids Comfort Systems, just to name a few. Our build with Quinn Whitney is scheduled on his books to begin pending permits in January or February. So far, we have our preliminary plans, which are just preliminary plans, with Brad Rowe, and we're scheduled for a meeting to revise and submit. Regarding our septic in our barn where we reside, we were given permission for pump and haul. We use Affordable Septic as the company that has pumped one time already for us. Jim Adams was out today to dig our lines. As you know, we've had a topsy-turvy wet season so far, and he was not able to complete the dig today of those lines because it is still too wet. I think he was at 24 inches. We have to go 30 inches. So he was not able to complete that, and he's going to look again for later in the week or next week. We have currently been granted conditional occupancy based on once the approval would be given from the health department after they inspect our septic there for the barn. Regarding in the findings, for what it's worth on everyone's business about our children, there was incorrect information listed. We actually have 6 children. We have an 18-year-old that lives with us part-time, and all of our children are with us part-time due to blended families. So again, for what it's worth, to have it right in the report. Regarding other comments in the staff report for a reason to live at the land, other than what's already been mentioned, that it was a dream to own acreage and it was a plan to live out on Kramer Road where we had family. There was absolutely convenience to live there, 100%. It's where we want to be, so I find that convenient. Regarding cost savings in the comments listed in the staff report, could not have been more wrong, false. There's no cost savings in buying 9 acres these days and building a 60 by 64 pole barn and putting in driveways, mailboxes, and 2 septic systems. That land will have 2 septic systems. There's no cost savings whatsoever. The home that I used to live in was a $105,000 home on Florida Avenue. There's no cost savings here. We were transparent. And really, those are my page of notes. We tried to do right. We paid the fees, but it appears that we were in error, that we have the cart before the horse. We do have a definitive timeline. We have, as I mentioned earlier, the experts in place. We've spoken with the bank for the money to build the home. We've improved the property, the value of the property, and we pay our taxes. And I guess that's kind of where we stand today, asking for a chance to continue to move forward with our family that's happy there on our 9 acres.
Thank you. Questions from the board members?
I have one. You're asking a permission to live in it for a year before you even start building a house?
No, sir. The build is scheduled to begin in January or February coming up by Quinn Whitney. So if we were to be granted permission today at this meeting, the expected completion date would be before the expiration of that 1 year that we're asking for.
Are you also running a business out of this barn?
So I did make notes on that. We store bounce houses in our facility, in our barn. Our business, we do have a business. It's our business is a seasonal and weekend business. We leave our land, our facility, and go deliver to other homes around central Indiana.
That didn't answer the question. Are you running a business out of that building?
I don't know if I can answer that straight firmly. It is listed as our address. You know, we didn't do a P.O. box but it's not a storefront. It's just a place where we store everything associated with the land, whether that's bounce houses or a box truck, a forklift, our camper, our John Deere mower. We leave the property seasonally and deliver all around central Indiana. So I would say it's probably more yes than anything that we do store all of our business assets in that pole barn.
So do customers come there to look at the merchandise, or how do you get to customers?
No, sir, no. They're rolled up and they're minimum probably 250 pounds. You can't roll them out and show customers, you know, the bounce house.
So how do people find you?
We have a website. So they order off the website and then we go deliver to their homes. Again, Mooresville, Plainfield, Franklin, Whiteland, Bloomington, Indianapolis, Avon. We go all over central Indiana.
By the pictures you submitted in here, it appears you're already living in this pole barn.
Yes, sir, that's true. Again, we didn't know there was and then we could have researched it or looked it up. We believed that we knew other people that did the same thing. They were going to be in a camper while their home was being built. The error that we made is that we haven't filed for the permit. That's at least one error that we made. The septic for the new home has been, excuse me, not the septic, the soil test for the new home, which would be the second septic system, has been tested, and it passed like the first soil test. Jim Adams has laid out the field for the second septic system, and then he would be in the process now to submit it to, for approval here in this building.
I guess this strikes me more as a request to change this to a business location than it is a home location. I don't know if that's totally accurate in my part, but there's more than just living here. I did not hear you say how big the camper was.
Yeah, it was in the second point. It's a 36-foot camper with bunkhouse. The pole barn is approximately 3,800 square feet, and the camper is on one side of the pole barn, and then storage is on the other side of the pole barn.
Sounds to me like you're living more in a pole barn than you are the camper.
Well, I don't know, we sleep every night in the camper.
Well, I know in other times we've had this request, anything happens in that camper is not seen out of the, particularly with children, is not seen out of the pole barn. You know, you're gonna have gas in there to heat with, because most campers are propane.
We have heaters, it's an electric camper heater, that we've had it tested already. It was 30-some degrees, before we had it insulated, the pole barn. And our camper heaters, we would like to avoid the point that you're making. We would like to avoid propane at all costs regarding the camper. Now, our room and the restroom in the pole barn are heated with the natural gas, or excuse me, LP.
Do you have an additional home right now that you could live in?
We do not. So we were over on Florida Avenue, and when the rehabilitation center was being put up right behind our house, we decided it was a great time to try to build a home and move out to our land. And probably, you know, in hindsight, we wouldn't do it again. The steps and the cost and meetings, we wouldn't do it again, but nonetheless, we're here now trying to get our home built, and I'm asking for 1 year.
Well, January, February is not in my humble opinion, not a great time to start a house.
I would agree, but that's when Quinn Whitney said he would start on our home. So for me, he's the home builder, and I was planning to roll with that with the expert that builds the homes.
No further questions?
Any other questions from the board members?
None at this time. May on a callback.
Thank you.
Lacey, and I apologize, is it Crosley? Did you want to speak?
Hi. Nick knows all of the technical building stuff, and I do not.
Name and
Sorry,
address.
yes. It's Lacey Crossley. I'm living at 3957 Kramer Road currently, in a camper, in a pole barn. We've been living there now for a couple of months, and my maiden name is Bolin. So I grew up out on Kramer Road, Paragon Road, Turkey Track Road. My grandfather owned lots of property out there. I have several family members who still live out there. And so we have a dream to live out there and raise our family there as a permanent home. So we did, as Nick said, we put up a pole barn first, and we thought that we would be using it for storage. And then, like he said, the rehabilitation center started to break ground actually for the rehabilitation center, and we received a letter, like all of our neighbors received a letter, that would be a real rehabilitation center put up behind us. And so we decided we had the land and a plan to build a house, so let's go ahead and get started. We bought a 36-foot camper. We parked it in our barn. We have electric. We put in the camper plug, you know, and we just hit the ground, I guess, running. We've had people out to inspect the home. I'm a nurse. I'm actually a director of nursing services, and I work every day. So it's literally like living and being raised in a barn, for sure, for the kids and for us, but they're all safe. Like Nick said, no one's had any injuries. No one's been sick. We went through the winter, the spring. No one's been ill. And we would like to continue what we're doing. We're comfortable there. We're happy. The kids are comfortable there. They ride the bus to school from there and get brought home on the bus. And we would just like to stay until the house is finished.
Anything else?
No.
No? Questions from the board members?
How long did you say you've lived in that camper?
How long have we lived in
Yeah.
it? Probably maybe 3 months, I think. Maybe, since May, the 1st of May? So going on 2.5 months-ish, probably. And it may be right around 2 months.
Other questions?
I don't have any.
I have none.
No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Boland?
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. John Boland, 4730 Kramer Road, Martinsville. Lacey is my niece, and I am a lifelong resident of Baker Township. My father was there before me, and my grandparents were there. So I'm basically just standing here in support of my family and asking that the board would consider to give them the opportunity to continue what they're doing. They have a beautiful pole barn that is nicer than most homes in Baker Township, to be honest with you. And their camper it's not like they pulled a rusty old camper onto a lot and they're squatting. They're doing everything they can with the finances and the means that they have to live there safely. And as far as operating a business out of their barn, I can tell you that of course, I'm a little biased, obviously, it's my family, but I will not stand here under oath and say anything misleading or dishonest. I drive up and down that road multiple times daily, 7 days a week, and I've never seen an issue with any kind of traffic or problems. All I see is a family there that's trying to make a living and trying to build a home. So I would just ask that you consider giving them the opportunity to continue living as they're living, which obviously seems to be okay, other than maybe not following the rules step by step by step. But I do believe that they're trying to remedy that and do the right thing. So I would appreciate the opportunity. I'd love to see my family be able to build a home there. Thank you.
Hold on just a second. Any questions from the board?
I have none.
No, I have none.
No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kenny Hale?
Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing this evening? I'm here just as an old family friend. Old Don Boland was a retired mail carrier and a good friend. That's his kids back there and granddaughter back there. I just think the world of Don and the whole family, whether Nick did right or wrong. I know the builders that he's using as far as going about it the right way, getting a variance to be able to live in a camper trailer like somebody's been able to do before you. He's a little bit ignorant on what the laws were and the regs were, and that's on him. But I know we've also got a lot of people, and Fred, you know, right up there on Huggin Hollow Road, you got right there on 037, you got 3 campers living right there between 144 and the park. That one right there on that new section of Huggin Hollow, you know, that's 5 feet from the one side setback, 10 from the front. And I mean, you got it clearly going on right now. And I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at nobody, but I'm just here supporting them. Not saying whether it's right or wrong, but I'm just here supporting them. And I just feel like I owe it to O'Don. He's not with us no more, but I think a lot of the family, and they're just good people. So that's all I've got to say. I'd be more than glad to answer any questions you have for me, though.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
No.
No?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Scott Trout?
My name's Scott Trout. I've been a building inspector for Morgan County for 21 years. I live at 1748 Apple Blossom Lane, Martinsville, Indiana. I probably misrepresented. I'm not in opposition. I'm of interest. If the board decides to make this and grant this variance, my recommendations is carbon monoxide testers for the pole barn because propane gas. The heater might be electric in the camper, but the barn runs off propane. That's all I've got to say.
Questions from the board?
Nope.
You're saying the barn is heated with propane?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hold on just a second, Scott. Are you the current building inspector for the county?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. When you've been out and looked at this then? That's how you know they heat with the propane in
Several
there.
times.
And any other concerns?
No, they've addressed all the concerns I had, other than if it's going to be granted for living, then with the new codes, it needs to have carbon monoxide testers. I did make them put smoke detector in it. They can put a carbon smoke combo out in the main part of the barn, and that would suffice that.
Well, under our current building codes, if this was a residence and you were out inspecting this pole barn and they're going to be using it as a residence,
It could not be used as a residence.
why is that?
You cannot have a bedroom door, if there was a bedroom in there, opening up out into a garage or a storage area. That would be one thing. There would have to be a fire separation from the living area to the storage area.
Any other?
Yeah, I'd have to have a kitchen and a lot of other things.
What about access or exit points?
He is good on exits. He has a door going out of what they call an office, which I think they're using for sleeping. That code allows either a door or a window, egress window, leaving a sleeping area. But you can't have a door opening in from the sleeping area to the garage area. So that would have to be blocked off with a 20-minute fire-rated door.
Any other questions for
I think
Mr. Trout?
one CO2 or gas detector or smoke detector is sufficient, especially if you're encompassing that within
What
the
code
camper
reads,
inside that?
what code reads is a smoke detector has to be located in every sleeping room and one in the main living area, and per every floor, whether you got a basement or upstairs.
Yeah.
The CO2 code is that CO2 detector has to be outside that bedroom door, unless you have a gas-fired appliance in that bedroom where it would require a CO2 also.
But you'd said that you need one in the barn. Don't you need one in the camper too?
We don't regulate campers. It's just like a manufactured home. We do not, these are pre-built and assembled. Would I have one in there? Probably most of your new campers probably do. I don't know. I don't own a camper. The older ones probably don't. But if you're using propane or natural gas, it's required. Or if you have an attached garage to a house, whether you got gas or not, it's still required.
Like most campers, of which I have one, I assume that this has a propane stove in it.
I'm sure it probably does, but I don't know that. Most campers run off propane.
I have no further questions.
Any other questions from the board members? No? Thank you, Mr. Trout. Mike Snyder?
Evening, Mike Snyder, 4723 East County Road, 325 South. I'm also Morgan County Building Inspector with Scott. Don't have much to add aside from what he's already brought up to you folks. I'd just like to state the same thing, not a real typical, habitable layout there. Biggest concern is just health and welfare of the occupants. Just not a typical situation, so that's about all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Snyder from the board? No?
Thank you.
Thank you. David, is it Kanoy?
My name's David Kanoy. I live at 3811 Kramer Road, immediately adjacent to Dr. Sears' property. And I've been a resident of Baker Township for 30 years and just built our home a couple of years ago. I actually came to introduce myself a couple of times, but can't seem to catch him home, and want to welcome to the neighborhood. And I want to go on record as saying I have absolutely no issue with them living in their RV until such time that they have their home constructed. I did, however, have a question about the nature of the business that's being run out of the property. And I'll go on record of saying I have no problem with a business being there, but just as I had to abide by all of the code requirements, building inspections, and so forth, in order to construct my pole barn first, my home later, I would expect everyone else to abide by those codes as well. And one question I would ask, I guess there's some maybe debate about what is a business. I would certainly ask, are there employees working out of there? It appears to me that there are, and I know that the bounce houses are prepared for delivery. They're brought back, they're laid out and cleaned, they're stored again, and there is, especially on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, considerable traffic up and down the road. But again, I have absolutely no issue with that, but I would expect that anybody that wants to operate a business on a residential piece of property get it zoned appropriately before operating that business. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
So you've lived out there about 30 years?
Yes.
Okay.
I previously lived at 4485 Godsey Road.
And I'm sure one of the board members will ask the applicant how many employees he has other than himself and his spouse once he comes back up. Thank you. Robert Chrisman.
Good evening, Robert Chrisman, 4255 Kramer Road. I live about 3 houses down from Dr. Sears and was very happy when Dr. Sears and his family decided to move out into our area and have a piece of property and build a home. I think a lot of Dr. Sears, and I really am conflicted about being here tonight because I have no issue whatsoever with them living in their camper until they can get a house built, and I hope of them speedy construction. I know that I'm in the construction field myself, and I know that it's a challenge right now. I hope that happens. The only issue that I have at this moment is the operation of a business out of the barn. And we walk our dogs up and down that road on a daily basis. There are employees coming and going. There can be anywhere from 6 to, a half dozen cars to 3 or 4 cars out there, employee cars coming and going at any particular time. And I have been pushed off the road by folks that are coming too fast with wide trailers that are coming and going from that property. And I feel that it is a commercial business being operated in a residential area. I know it's zoned agriculture at the moment, but it's really on that particular road from Godsey Road to Paragon Road, there's really only one agricultural piece of property left on that road. Everything else is pretty much houses now. And it's good, but I just have concerns about that, about having a business operating there. And I just wanted to come as an interested party.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Is it all day long, or do they go like in the morning, load up and leave?
In the morning, they come in the morning, then they leave. They may come back at different particular times of the day, but generally it's morning and evening. It's not all day long, every single day. It is heavier towards the weekend, because I'm sure that's when the bulk of the business that they have is toward the weekend. But it's unfortunately, it is creating an issue out there. I've spoken with some of the neighbors, and I had one young lady that told me, she said, I'm scared. I got little bitty kids, and I'm scared that something's going to happen to them. And I said, well, I'm sure that we'll be able to work through this. So I'm just here, I'm very conflicted, because I really like Dr. Sears, and I don't like being in this position, but I feel like I need to come and say something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? No, thank you. All right, is it Wynn Deckard? Did I get that right? That's unusual. No, me getting it right's unusual,
Oh,
not
okay.
your name.
4048 Kramer Road. Can see their property from my mailbox, and kind of just right down the, you can't see me, but I would be basically where it says download in that area. I know this Dr. Sears well from high school. I'm a school teacher. I have no problem. I have a camper. We have carbon monoxide detectors inside our campers as well. I don't live in the camper, but we go camping. So as far as living in campers, I know that people have seasonal campers, and they live there in their seasonal properties for months, so I don't have a problem with camper living. Inside the pole barn, I'm sure that there would be no problem if they don't already have carbon monoxide detectors in their pole barn. That's a non-issue. I was a firefighter as well previously, so I know how dangerous it can be and the results, and my husband has been to a scene where carbon monoxide, or I have as well. Anyway, long story short, I have no problem with them living in their camper, in their pole barn. It is a beautiful pole barn. As far as the business, it's a storage. For me, I have no problem with that. I understand traffic, but I go all times of the day too, back and forth, so I meet vehicles too, and other people that run me off the road that don't come out of that property.
Anything else? No? Thank you. Questions from the board members?
How long have you lived out there?
5 years.
Pardon?
5 years.
5 years? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ron Deckard?
Good evening. I don't have too much to add on top of what my wife just did. I'm Ron Deckard. I'm at 4048 Kramer Road as well. We've lived there 5 years, as she said. Matter of fact, 5 years this month. Just coming here in support of Dr. Sears, I have no technical expertise to add to this conversation. I have no specific knowledge that's pertinent other than to say that I know Dr. Sears just on a semi-professional basis, and so it's not tainted by a personal relationship or any of that nature. But I have no issue with his residing on the property in the situation that he finds himself in with the camper. Like my wife said, we spend months at a time in our RV. We know the dangers, we know the lifestyle, and recognize that it is doable, you know, if people play smart. As for the business side of things, I don't even want to get involved with that. I have, again, no expertise. I don't have the background and knowledge of the regulations and everything of that nature. So I just want to say that we have no problem, I have no problem with if this variance was to be granted to them, I would be in full support of it.
Thank you. Questions from the board members?
None.
No? Thank you very much. Mr. Sears. Folks, we always give the applicant a chance to come back up and speak again and address hopefully some of the concerns that were brought up by those who also spoke. Anything you'd like to say, Mr. Spears? If not, I'll open it up to the board for questions that they may have of you.
I do. I have some comments I've written down. In mathematics, you can look at things as mean, median, and mode to get the result that you want. You can skew it. And in some of the comments that I heard, it's like mean, median, and mode. We were asked to have a carbon monoxide sensor hardwired in our building, and that's what we did by the building inspector. Not only did we do that, but they didn't like the way it was hung, so we had to rehang it, hardwired in the room to pass inspection. Regarding the door that opens into the shop, it's incorrect. The door opens into the room. Love to have you out. So when we want to talk facts or fact-finding or door swings, the door absolutely swings into the room. There's no code violation. We don't have a kitchen in the pole barn. We have a kitchen in our camper. We also eat out because that seems to be what we do with 6 kids. We just take the most expensive route we can go and support our local diners. But when we do cook, we don't use any of the propane because it's not convenient in a camper. The oven is 1/4 the size of this piece of furniture or whatever it's called. So we don't bake and cook and use propane in our camper. We use an electric skillet, or we eat out, or we grill on a grill outside. Our exits are not only by code and safe, but they're lighted. We passed inspection because they're lighted on the outside. The camper itself has a carbon monoxide detector, and we have the carbon monoxide detector inside the barn. Regarding employees, we have folks that come and park their car there and then get in one of my vehicles and leave. That number would be usually 6 to 8 high school kids, college kids, or grown adults that work for us. We pay our taxes. I currently owe $11,700 to the IRS as part of running a business. I think it was due on the 26th. I think that's today. And I'll have to pay some fees because I didn't get it paid on time. But I think that was all of the notes that I had contrary to other testimony. When you stop out at somebody's house when you're out walking your dog and you probe and ask them, what do you think? because I can talk behind somebody's back while I walk over there and ask them, what do you think? Well, they're gonna say, whatever. But when I called the same young lady from that hallway just before this meeting, she gave a completely different story. So I think it goes back to meeting, and mode. We're here asking for 1 year to build a home with local experts. The separate issue, if we need to apply for a variance and pay another $325, I'd be happy to do that and apply for the variance. But I think that for tonight's meeting, we were asking for a 1 year variance to build a home. And then we would be happy to also comply or ask for a variance for a business, a seasonal, mostly weekend business that does have employees, that they come to Kramer Road there on our 3957 where our pole barn is. But I would want to add regarding businesses in our area and on our street. Very well-known people all up and down that street and at the bottom of the hill that run very large businesses also out of their home. And I would check the zoning, I would personally, because it's not just gonna be a Nick Sears issue. We have it go, my very neighbor runs a business, makes things, and he sells it to local schools and individuals. He has a truck and trailer. They go up and down that road. So when we go down the rat hole of who's running a business and how it's zoned, it's just what it is. We'll have to go through the process. I agree with Mr. Kanoy that if one person should have to do it, all of us should have to do it. But I have a list of the businesses that are run out on Kramer Road at the bottom of Gotsey Hill, and my neighbor and others. And I think there's other ways that we get there. If I have an issue with a driver that violated speed, I would personally handle it. I have handled it. We've had drivers that get a speeding ticket out on the roadways, and they pay their own ticket. But I think there's other ways that we handle it, rather than throwing mud at everybody around the neighborhood. And I believe that I'm open for any additional questions.
Questions from the board members?
You say you got 6 to 7 employees? Are they full-time employees? Or?
No, sir. They're seasonal, part-time.
Okay.
Our business runs from, really starts picking up in April and it ends in October. Now, we have had people rent something at Thanksgiving to get the kids outside if it was warm enough, but our bulk of our business to homes, churches, and schools runs about April through October. And it's pretty much a weekend business because everybody's home. And so we take our merchandise to their backyards. We don't have a storefront. We don't have customers to our home. They can't come and load at our place. We're fully insured. We're a fully insured business.
You're talking about you wanting a year extension on this to live in the camper.
Yes, sir.
If we go for a year on this meeting, that's going to put you short on time thing. But you're asking, basically, you're asking from a year from January when it starts, and that means you're going to live in that camper for a year and a half, correct?
I was asking for, however, that you could grant me, whether it's from this meeting or whether it's from Quinn Whitney's groundbreaking. But we're trying to comply, I guess, we're trying to comply. So as a rookie filling out the paperwork with no help, I put down a year. It was my understanding, kind of after the fact, that I could have put down 2 years. I tried to be reasonable and I asked for a year. If anything, that might be tight. That might be tight. And I'm assuming I'll either make it or I won't, and I'd have to pay another fee and apply for an extension. But we're asking for a year. However, it could be from this meeting or from, the January, February date to build our home.
I think my biggest trouble with your request is I see 2 small children out there of the 6, and I don't, probably based on not scientific fact or anything like that, but I don't think they could find their way out of a camper and a pole barn in an emergency.
I would agree. But that's a supervision, a parenting issue. We don't leave our children of 3 and 4 by themselves. It's like on an airplane, whenever that mask drops, they instruct you to, take care of you and then take care of those that are unable. Well, that's what we do for our children.
Well, I don't doubt that. It just, things happen.
Sure.
The biggest thing in the overall thing is you're asking to live there, but we've done nothing about the business. There seems to be a very complicated process. And no matter what I do on this vote is conflicts me from that standpoint. But we've done this before as far as people living in pole barns with buildings in it. And I know there's been some that we haven't caught, like businesses, and we don't have to adjudicate that because this is the only thing before us. I'd love to say yes, but I'm having a very hard time with it because of business, small children, 6 kids in a camper.
Could I add a couple things? We went skating 6 weeks ago at Franklin, and I was trying to work with our 2-year-old at the time, 3-year-old, to get her out on the floor and teach her how to skate and have an experience. And in doing so, I fell on top of her and broke her leg in 2 places. Things happen, but we take every precaution so that they don't happen. Their mother is a director of nursing, so she oversees the health and welfare of hundreds of long-term residents in a facility here in Martinsville. Safety is always our first bullet point. It's always our first piece, safety. Again, the other part of our children is that they're with us half of the time. So again, we minimize risk when they're not there because of our blended families. The other piece I think that's intriguing, if nothing else, is that all of the families of our blended families support where we're living. That's X's. They support our arrangement for our children. We have a, whether we get granted or not, we'll figure out the plan, but we have a happy, thriving family currently at 3957 Kramer Road in a pole barn, in a camper on 9 acres. And again, I'm asking or begging that you find a way that we could have up to a year to get our home built and put it behind us. I think I started with the fact that as a rookie, the cart was before the horse, trying to get that fixed.
My biggest concern is on this thing is running that business out of there too. Storage of that in the same place that you're going to have possible living areas into, I would say. You mentioned the fact that there's several businesses and stuff out there that's running that way. Part of our job here is to try to get some of that under control a little bit by extending some of this, the business that are out there. We're just promoting more of it. I'm not in favor of that business running out of there. Giving you the liberty to live in that camper while you're having your home built, I see no problem with that, as long as it's done in a safe manner.
Yes, sir.
But consequently, with that thing, you're running the business out of there, no matter how few of employees or how little turnaround you have out of it, it still constitute 2 things. The possibility of, you're talking 250-pound items fooling around there. You've got kids running around in there, 6 kids running around in there. And to the accidental area of it greatly goes up. As I say, I'm not in opposition to the thing. But I am in opposition to you running that business out of there. I think you need to find somewhere else and find somewhere else immediately to run that business out of until you get the situation, get your house built. And then we take it up on the legal ways of doing the business. We're trying to, eliminate that throughout the county. Everybody thinks they can come to Morgan County and just do what they want to, and we've got a purpose of our job here is to try to get it into correspondence within rules and regulations or comprehensive plans and stuff like that we tried to establish for the county.
Sure.
And people just can't go into. We can't police everything, but we can when the thing comes in front of us, put a stipulation against running that business out of there while you're trying to live in there.
Right. So for tonight's meeting on the agenda, we were asking for an extension to live there for 1 year regarding the home. Is it fair to ask, is it a separate meeting regarding the business, or is it something we're trying to combo here tonight that can be done if it's not on the agenda? One other thought to the business is we're towards the back half of winding the season down, which means there'll be no business. We're on the back half of that. And that would give us time to file for a variance for, I guess, the permission to operate or to store things in a pole barn that leave every weekend.
Are you still pumping and hauling, or do you have?
We are, yes. We've had a pump and haul one time. We used affordable septic. I think there may be out of the Ellettsville area. And then they dug today. I think that was in earlier. They dug today to try to put in our lines for the barn, but it was too wet to make the 30-inch requirement. So he was going to try later this week or early next week, and let's just hope we don't have any more rain.
Other questions from the board?
Why did you not request you removed your living quarters request for the pole barn, and only an office space, bathroom included in the revised plan? Why did you do that?
Yeah, let's be public about it. I went through a really rough divorce and finances fell through. And so it was originally going to be, I guess, not a barn dominium, but it was originally going to be a barn with home in it. And then, the bottom dropped out of my personal life. That's the short of it. Went through a divorce, and it's a lot easier to get a loan when you've got two people and two incomes versus one at the time that I revised the plan. So it was strictly a financial decision at the time.
You're still teaching school?
No, sir. I work as an inspector, consultant on the I-69 project. Contract 4 from Morgan to Fairview, and then we have a business.
Other questions from the board members? Bill?
Could you find another place to live? Will you run a business out of this? Can you move the business so we don't have two things that we have to adjudicate this time?
I didn't understand the question.
Can you left, I believe on Morton Avenue,
Yes.
your business location.
Correct.
Is there an opportunity to have your business not in this location?
I struggle with that. We're in a time right now where everybody wants to say we're behind on this and prices are this because of COVID. We can't build this or lumber is that or the price of a new car because of COVID. So to find a warehouse to store things and leave on a Friday or Saturday morning and return that evening is, really difficult. To find a home for us would also be possibly challenging. We have not began that search because we were here under the impression that people have come before us and done the exact same thing and been granted permission. Kenny Hale mentioned earlier different campers around town or up off 37. At the corner of Henderson Ford Road and 37, there's a whole family compound living in campers. 2 years ago, we had a red tent out on 39 with a homeless person, and that's okay. But I try to build a fancy pole barn to have a thriving family, and I find myself in a hearing where there's contention and debate on whether I'll get approved. We're trying to add value, not take away. There seems to be some, I'm not sure what the word is, on how it went over here, but it can't go over here. And it's all around the county right now. And again, we were approached, not legally, but I guess by officials, that we were trying to skirt and try to be sneaky and try to cheat the system and anti-government. None of that's true. We displayed our full living quarters right in front of the inspector multiple times. We were accused of building a laundry room, which is false. It's a difference in having a laundry room and having a washer and dryer sit there. It's been personal, it's been hurtful. I was treated better when I was fired by the MSD of Martinsville. I was treated better than what I've been to this date here for trying to do the right thing and ask for a little grace and ask for a family understanding and a little autonomy to believe and work with our own kids and know that they're safe when their mother's a nurse and their stepdad is a former school teacher and administrator for 20 years that's in the kid business. Not only was professionally in the kid business, but runs a kid business for safety. Bounce houses, if they're not anchored down, fly away in the wind, and you've seen that before. So we know safety.
I think the hardest thing for me is we have to legally meet finding of facts. And what other people are doing does not affect us right now because we are only going to handle this case here. And you don't meet so many of them is my problem. We can vary that. We can grant permission because that's what this board does, but quite a few of them are not met at all.
Could I know what those are that we're not meeting? We talked about a kitchen, carbon monoxide, a door swing. The reason we're at a variance meeting is to ask permission to go around, to ask for grace and an extension of time to meet what the ordinance or variance, whatever you call it, rule, law, county is. That's the reason that we paid our money to get here and ask for your permission to still make it. You know, we're not there yet. We're not at the finish line, but we're trying to get there together was what I thought we were going to try to do, is to try to get there together.
We generally try, I'll have to say that. But I think the biggest thing that I'm going to think on, and I don't have an idea yet which way I'm going to go, but it seems like you could legally or lawfully or any other way you want to put it, live in a rental. Or you could have your business in a rental. But there's so much here that we have to take into consideration. It's difficult.
Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Bill?
None.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, we'll close our public meeting, enter into a public hearing. This is an application for use variance, and in order for the board to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant has met 5 findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant writes, We will follow all other laws and ordinances during the time our home is being built. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant has written, this is a temporary living arrangement while our home is being built. Our home and pole barn will increase the property value. Number three, the need for the variance does arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved because, and the applicant writes, local ordinance does not allow living in a camper, and then in parentheses, temporarily. Number four, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because, and the applicant has written, I would not be able to stay at my property while the home is being built. And number five, the approval does not interfere substantially with the adopted comprehensive plan because, and the applicant has written, my request is for a temporary variance of the ordinance while my home is being built. We have used all local contractors during this process. For technical reports for this application, the Health Department states they have no objection to the proposed variance. And for the surveyor, they've made no comments. For the staff recommendation for this application, they have written, the petitioner does not successfully respond to finding of fact number one because the pole barn was not constructed nor has it been approved for human habitation, and the petitioner began occupying the structure without final inspections. Even if the petitioner argues that they are only living in the camper while it is parked inside the pole barn, it is clear and evident from pictures that the entire building is used as a dwelling. For building code and public health and safety reasons, staff cannot knowingly support a request that would allow adults and children to inhabit a structure that was not built for that purpose, even on a temporary basis. The petitioner does not successfully explain the peculiar condition of the property in finding of fact number three that supports the need for the variance. The prohibition of living in a camper exists in all zoning districts across the county and is not unique to this location. In finding of fact number four, the petitioner does not successfully describe the unnecessary hardship that would arise if the variance was not approved. The petitioner's desire to live in a camper on the property is likely a cost-saving and convenience measure, which is not a factor that can be used to justify an unnecessary hardship. For these reasons, staff cannot support the petitioner's use variance request to be allowed to live in a camper inside the pole barn. And then an additional recommendation regarding the business use. Staff has written the petitioner is also operating an inflatable rental business out of this pole barn. This business was previously located at 321 Morton Avenue in Martinsville. However, in March 2021, the petitioner sold the Morton Avenue location. The petitioner's business website now lists 3957 Kramer Road as the business address. The Plan Commission office has had complaints from a few neighbors regarding the recent commercial activity occurring on the property. Some may bring these issues to the attention of the BZA during the public hearing portion of these proceedings. Staff recommends that these concerns and issues be formally addressed by requiring the petitioner to seek a separate variance for a commercial use in an ag zone district. Open for conversation amongst the board, discussion.
It would seem to me that and I hate to say this, I guess, in a way that it would be best rectified if everything was taken care of at once, that being from the pictures that we have here, and we have a significant amount of pictures, I would say, compared to most operations we have. The the whole building is being used as a house or a home. And it being a business to boot, it's difficult to support this petition.
Gets the business out of there and stays in the pole barn.
Can't hear you, Jerry.
If he stays, gets the
Can you
business.
talk into the mic?
Gets the business out of there, remove the business from the premises, and he can stay in the barn. We've had other people stay in their campers, they weren't in barns, but other, stay in their campers till their house was built. But if he removes the building, that's half the thing gone. Not removes the building, removes the business. Find some other place to run the business.
Brad?
I have no problem with him living in a camper till he gets his house built. I do have a problem with that business being in there and him immediately himself having these items 250 pounds moving around. When you're moving one of these inflatable parts, they're somewhat of a cumbersome thing to be moving anyway. You take 6 kids and the danger is that. As I say, I have a real problem with that. I don't like that idea. Having that business run out of the same place where you're going to be having a family live within a camper. Inside of that, it's just too much. And it's obvious from the pictures that we're seeing here, that we have here, that they're using that full building as living in now anyway, as well as the camper. They got clothes stored in different racks and everything else around there. I wouldn't have, as I say, petition come here to sign this. We can't control everything in the past that other people have started businesses in different areas without that. But our job is also to stop it from now on, to live within our county comprehensive plan that we're trying to put together to make a better county. As I say, I have no problem with him living in that camper until he gets a house built. I think we given a year. I'm saying we're given a year from the first day of August on, not from January on.
I agree with.
I think in order to do that, he's got to get the business out of there. That's my opinion.
He indicated that things happen, legs get broke, things like that. The business consists of high school kids and things like that. That indicates, like Mr. Roberts indicated, not very safe.
Accidents will happen no matter what. My concern is trying to prevent them from happening. When you're dealing with these inflatables, you move around, they get cumbersome. And there's the opportunities there. I just don't, and as I say, I don't have a problem with him living in a camper. We have situations throughout the county where people are living in campers. And it's unfortunate we have that. We try to get it under control where we can. I personally got them in my area. I know of at least 4. And but this is a situation that comes from us where we're making a statement where we're allowed it or not. And I think I don't see a problem with him living in that camper. I do with everything else that's encompassed together here, putting these together, the business and the camper. I think too much of a chance of having problems and then getting the safety features, the CO2 monitors and the smoke detectors to meet what our requirements are for him. I think that's got to be part of it.
So as I see this, Mr. Peden, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've got an application to grant a request, a variance to live in a pole barn and a camper inside a pole barn, howbeit. We don't have a request in front of us to operate a business out of that. So we're not here deciding whether or not the applicant can operate his business. That would require a separate application for a different variance. But if the board determines that they want to make a motion to approve this application, could it be contingent on him ceasing to operate his business immediately at that location?
The whole thing has been presented to you as one set of circumstances. Camper and business. You can impose a condition on granting a camper permit being specifically relocation of the business in a certain time period.
Okay, all right. That's what I was thinking on that.
Could we ask Mr. Trout to step back up here and give us a little bit of advice onto what it would take for them to live in that camper, in that barn safely?
I want to bring it to the attention, nobody mentioned a door swing when I was up here before. The board asked what requirement would have to be met if that was a bedroom and you had a garage. I said it had to be a 20-minute fire-rated door. The only requirement that they need to meet would be if they're living in the camper and they're staying in the office. I did have him put a smoke carbon in the office. But if the door's shut there, the door's shut on the camper, the furnace is in the pole barn, they need a carbon monoxide in the main part of that pole barn.
Is that, it sounds like, and maybe I'm reading more into this than what you're saying, but maybe that's if the board approves this, that be an item attached as a contingent.
That would be another contingent.
Okay, all right.
It's not, it was an accessory structure permit. A lot of codes don't apply to an accessory structure. But once it's being used for living and you grant it, then other codes would apply.
Thank you. Anything else for Mr. Trout while he's up here? Any other questions?
I guess my question is, if it was granted for them to live in it without a business there, would you be able to make some kind of sheet that indicated what they had to do to make it safe?
Well, he did, he followed my advice on the hooking up of the washer and dryer. His dryer vent was overextended on length, but there's 2 exceptions to that code, and he met that code. The only thing now, my concern is if there's no smoke in the main part of the pole barn and there's no carbon monoxide. If you're sleeping in the camper, you're sleeping in the office with the doors shut, the fire starts in the pole barn, how long is it gonna go before the smoke rises? The smoke's in the room. It would have to filter underneath the door. The room would almost have to fill up before the smoke got into that room. Same with the camper. It's gonna take longer to set those alarms off than it would be if it was in the main part of the pole building to begin with, which that's where the furnace and the gas appliances are.
Where my concern was is what I said about having appropriate safety
Right,
matters.
he has an electric heater, but the furnace itself is LP, that's propane.
Yeah, and
So there, that constitutes carbon monoxide.
as I'd said, I don't have a problem with him living in that camper, but if he's gonna be in that building, I want all of the appropriate safety matters met.
Right.
Of what we require.
There are a lot of bounce houses stored there. It's several layers high. I don't know if the pictures reflect it, but you gotta have a tow motor come in probably and lift them down while the kids are there. I don't know if they're there when all that's going on, but there are concerns.
Only takes one time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other discussion amongst the board?
I once again have no objection to them living in a camper if they meet all the safety requirements, but not while there's a business there, period.
Yeah, I'm gonna be, if a motion is made to approve this, I'm not gonna vote in favor of that. I don't think we're anywhere close to meeting the findings of facts, and we may have granted living in a camper before. I don't recall myself ever voting in favor for one where it was inside of a pole barn. And then the whole business piece is a whole nother issue. But quite frankly, just because everybody else speeds isn't an excuse for you to speed, or hey, everybody else does this, doesn't make it right for you to do it. So as Fred said, we get applicants in one at a time, and we address them as we can. So that's a whole nother issue. But if the board wants to make a motion to approve this and attach a condition that the business cease operation, for him to be able to reside in that camper for a set period of time with a firm end date on that, that would be my suggestion. However, I'm still a no vote on this, just from the standpoint of, in my mind, we've met 1 out of 5 findings of facts, and it doesn't warrant making that kind of a special exception. That's what we're here for. We're an exception board, but I don't think we've met the requirement on this. That's my opinion.
And I guess, Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but we recently had a death on this board, unfortunately, a very outstanding member. And there's 4 of us here right now. But it takes 3 votes to pass. 2 to 2 would not pass. 3 to 1 would, but this is a miserable job at times, and this is a miserable decision we have to make. And I guess we would possibly ask Mr. Sears if he can move his business prior to me voting favorably for it.
As I said, I have no problem with them living in the camper till they get their house built. That's nothing that. My biggest concern is the safety matters that's involved in not only the business in that building, but also the inhalation of CO2 gases and fumes and stuff in there, especially when you got 6 kids. They're much more vulnerable and everything. I think I wouldn't have a problem putting some exceptions to the approval to do it. First off, the business be moved immediately, and the smoke detectors and all the safety equipment's being put together to meet our standards. What we're hunting for is, as a county building inspector is hunting for in it. But unless those are met, and in a time frame, I think a year from August 1st, 2021 would be more than a sufficient amount of time if he's going to do it, to get something going. Not from January 1.
Is there more discussion, or would someone like to make a motion at this point? Any more discussion?
I have no more discussion.
Open for a motion. No, sir, not at this point. We closed our public meeting. We're in a public hearing, as I explained earlier. There's a point where You're allowed to speak, and now it's our turn.
What do you want to do, Bill?
I guess, do we ask the petitioner if he's willing to live under these conditions? Which we can do as a board.
I'd be careful with that, and I'm just,
No, I don't
we're having discussions still. He's in violation running his business now. I wouldn't care if he's in favor of it or not. He shouldn't be running his business there.
I agree.
And I think if you ask him if he would have a problem with that, we're almost condoning him running his business, which we shouldn't do. But that's just my thought.
I don't disagree with you at all. You know, I don't know. I believe with two good jobs, they could afford to rent someplace to live. And maybe renting a house and renting a place to run a business, since that's not legal, is we get into a can of worms when we're gonna get the same thing later. Will you let so-and-so do it? And each of these items is a single priority. And yes, I probably understand there's other people living in things that I don't know about. And we have very dedicated staff that makes every effort to keep everybody on the same page as far as doing things right. And I agree with John that he did not pick up on our lack of support for his business and his residents. Yeah, I just, if it was just living in the trailer, in the pole barn, and meeting all the safety requirements, I could live with it, but I can't live with this.
Any more discussion? Again, open for a motion.
Not complete agreement with this thing, but I see too many circumstances that that creates a problem with, for us, not only as a committee and a board, but also the safety concerns of several factors that we're looking at here as far as people, the kids and stuff involved, the family and stuff like that. I think there's other exceptions and ways it could be done. And so I'll make a motion that we deny U 21-06. Allowing the use of the camper in the pole barn for up to a year. Number one, the approval will be injurious to the public health and safety and morals of the general welfare of the community, and because of the reasons stated in the staff report and the reasons stated in the petitioners filing the facts. Number three, the need for the variance does not arise from some of the conditions peculiar to the property for reasons stated in the staff report, which with our current staff report, you know, our current rules say that shouldn't be living in, you know, not approved for camper existence anyway. And the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will not constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property of which variance is sought because of the reasons stated in the staff report, which is desire to live in the camper. This is just a cost savings thing, and then where it, you know, he could be have a rental property to do this as well as for the business out of it. That's all I got.
I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second to that motion? I'll make the second. We have a motion to deny that's been moved and seconded. All in favor of denying application U-21-06, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, Mr. Sears, it's been denied. Anybody need a quick break?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break, folks, and be back in here at 8:20 by my watch.
It was presented different. I had an opportunity to present it different. Concerns the hell out of me. No. Hold up. Huh? Here, I'll show you what it is.
What?
Huh?
Getting light? Yeah, what's the hell?
See these things? That's what it is.
These toys and things?
Yeah, toys. They're folded. When they fold these things all up, they're big as a desk. And they're made out of plastic and
They
rubber.
expand, and they expand
And
out.
they're flimsy.
Yeah, yeah.
They could, well, you can pick one up at the forklift and he may just tip over. Yeah.
Over 250 is the lowest weight.
Yeah.
250 pounds? Why don't you go out and get a couple pizzas? Only kidding. We have one more thing. I don't know. Who cares about lineups? I didn't know that. About the motorhome place? Or they've been chatting. Who are they? They look like they're from Saloy. The other is the owner. Damn it. Christ. It's over here. This fucking paper. I thought it believe this. That's what he was saying. Oh, no, it has to do with the guy that was walking his dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's your new toy that you got? Didn't you buy a new toy off the fair board? No. Oh, I thought you did. What do are you picking out of there? What's your favorite? They're good for you. Son of a bitch.
Good morning.
How you doing?
It's not morning yet, is it?
We'll be here for the morning.
Jerry, would you like another water?
No, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Take a little scotch with it. What did this guy put down here somewhere? Jesus Christ. All right, get out.
Typically, letters, we don't read them. We passed a motion on that, a rule that we don't read. We don't read letters and petitions.
We just keep
Unless it's part of the package.
Actually, I think that Laura found something where we legally are supposed to.
I'm not gonna read them.
Yeah, you don't have to read it out loud, yeah.
But we
I think legally we have to accept them, is what it is.
have to accept them with.
I think, I could be wrong, you might talk to Laura, she could clarify that one better than I can.
Yeah, well, she was back in here, I'll ask her a question about that.
Yeah, kind of like the
Because
same as this thing.
It's, you know, it's just like,
Mark, you got enough goodies over there to get you through the
I
rest
was
of the
gonna show
evening?
him, I renumbered this too in order. It's the support here in a second. I had to renumber it because Manning accidentally signed up on the off lease, so.
but that's,
Yes.
You guys ready to go?
Yes, I was just gonna show you really quick, I renumbered this in order, just so you would have.
what do we do to have all this fun, bud?
We need a raise. We need a raise. We need a raise.
Apply for it for questions.
It's just a bad situation.
And then this letter.
How's the boat business?
Good if we had some to sell. When I left Friday, we had 2 total, new used. 2. We're selling now. For next year, just taking orders.
Oh, man. Here.
Jeff Banning.
Here a minute.
What? You know, anybody know who Jeff Banning is? Jeff Banning?
About them presenting this stuff. Always does all the time, comes in at the last minute. Do we have to accept all that stuff?
Not if we haven't had a chance to see it.
With what?
We haven't had a chance to see it,
Okay.
so.
Might be able to handle this a little bit.
Oh, so everybody can see it?
So everybody can see it?
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask if you got. Sure. Then it'll come up here. Everybody will sit in the back.
No, I think it's got some good
Kind of.
points.
I've heard the
It's got
stories
some
all I
points that I'm very uncomfortable with.
So I was sitting back.
We just,
That was just
Oh, okay, you do have a set.
Good, good.
Oh,
So then we'll use that to help kind of those concerns.
It's this right here.
All right. Okay, we all set? Order, so our next item on the agenda this evening is special hearing SE-21-02. Jeff Banning on behalf of Echo Lake LLC is seeking a special exception to expand a mobile home park onto 24 acres adjacent to the existing mobile home park located at 825 West Greencastle Road. The property is in Monroe Township and is zoned for ag. And on this application, I have 5 persons signed up in support and 4 persons signed up as interested. Didn't have anyone check off that they were in opposition. So, folks, got a lot of you in the back of the room. Mr. Banning has told me he's going to use these placards up here to show what they're proposing. So if you're one of those folks who signed up as an interested citizen, you might want to come up to the front of the classroom, so to speak, so you can see it and hear what he's talking about and help avoid some confusion. Maybe explain things if you came in with questions this evening that you're hoping Mr. Banning answers with his clear and detailed introduction to what he's planning to do there for this application. So everybody up front that needs to see that's concerned about it, all right, we're good to go. So first up this evening, I have Jeff Banning representing the applicant. Mr. Banning, it's all you.
Thank you very much. For the record, Jeff Banning with Banning Engineering, 853 Columbia Road, Suite 101, Plainfield, Indiana, 46168. Thank you for having me here this evening. Also with me this evening is Rick Rothke, who is in the back. And Rick is the owner of the development of the property with Barrington Investments. And Echo Lake Development LLC is the actual entity for this property. We thank you for allowing us to come before you here this evening. As you all well know, this is out west of Mooresville on Greencastle Road, on the south side of Greencastle Road between Mooresville and the interchange at State Road 39, Interstate 70. We have come before you here this evening to ask for a special exception use, expanding an existing mobile home park that has been out here since the 60s or so. As you can see on the board up here, the existing park is in this area here, and then the proposed 24 acres is this area here. As Laura Parker and I have had multiple discussions, I think we decided, probably me more than her, that this 24 acres and this 65 acres of the existing park are pretty well tied together. So we wanted to include all of these as part of this petition so that you could understand what we were proposing to do and how we looked at moving this petition forward. I know for the benefit of the board up here, you have a staff letter. I'm just going to point out a few of the comments in that staff letter for the audience and for everyone else, just to kind of highlight things. I know one of the things that actually came up in the previous conversation, and Laura has made comments of in this particular staff letter, is that thoroughfare plan, it talks about that, and Greencastle Road, that will become an issue, not an issue, but an item we want to discuss here shortly. Also, the future land use plan, the intensity zone plans that are in the comprehensive plan, we are staying within those guidelines and following those particular items as well. Staff recommendation, one of the items that Laura mentioned, and I passed out to all those staff members and board members, but one of the items that was mentioned had to deal with our access up here on Greencastle Road. As you can see on this map, shows an access here which has actually been closed off. If you go out there and look at that, this access has actually been closed. We have an access here, an access here, and an access here. So there are 3 access points onto Greencastle Road. Last week, prior to us actually getting the staff report, we had an on-site meeting with Monroe Gregg Schools to talk about how they dealt with their buses in coming into the development or not, or the property or not. Currently, what they do is the buses actually stop on Greencastle Road. We felt like that was, a potential for safety issues. You will see an exhibit in front of you that I passed out, but what we worked out with the schools is that this entrance, the middle entrance and the east entrance, we are actually going to connect those entrances up. The transportation director and the person that actually sets up the bus schedules, what we talked about with them is that we would like for all buses to come into the center entrance. They would offload on the south side of the buses here and then go out the east entrance. That would be a much safer situation than what currently occurs. Currently what they said is that, and I might be a little bit off on this, but I think you'll get the idea. Currently they have one bus route that comes eastbound. They stop, they pick up students. They've got the crossing arms out on Greencastle Road. For those that have been on Greencastle Road, that is not a safe situation, pretty fast traffic. That's in the morning. Then in the evenings, they actually head westbound and do a similar thing to where they're actually crossing across Greencastle Road. So we were pretty strategic in reaching out to them and just asking them about what would be their preference, and that's one of the items that came up in the staff recommendations. I talked with Laura about that, and as we move forward in creating our design plans for these changes, that's one of the elements that we're going to include in this project. One of the other items in the 3rd paragraph here again, the special exception fits recommendations of the county's comp plan for land use. More importantly, it supports the goal of providing a variety of housing opportunities in the Morgan County area. And as I had stated in my letter as submittal for this project, given the location of this property, Interstate 70, State Road 39, we've got Plainfield, we've got the growth going on in Mooresville, a lot of industrial growth going on, a lot of need for what we call workforce housing. This is a perfect location for that right there in the center for a lot of that growth and what is happening not only within the county but in the adjoining counties. A couple more items that I would like to point out this evening is that here again, we have 65 acres in this area here. There are currently 213 mobile home sites, 18 improved camping sites, a maintenance building, 8 acres, which is in this area here, that has previously been approved for expansion. There's a 6-acre stocked lake right here that's in the center of the development. And as I said, then the 24 acres of potential growth over here. Something that a lot of people might not know, and I noticed going through the latest comprehensive plan, and this did not get picked up in the comprehensive plan, there is an existing wastewater treatment plant right here. So this development is fully included within a wastewater treatment plant district. Our 24 acres will also be on that wastewater treatment plant, so our sanitary sewer will be taken. So there are no septic systems, no mound systems or anything like this. It's on sanitary sewer. Hill Water actually services this area. They will be servicing the new area as well. For those that are curious, there is actually a large, I believe, 24-inch water main that Citizens Water owns. For that, a long time ago, the Garfield theme park that did not happen, but that actually runs along the roadway as well, even though we're in the Hill Water service territory. Electricity is provided by Hendrix Power and CenterPoint Energy, most recently Vectren, before that Indiana Gas, also service this area. So we have all of the utilities that are required for a development of this sort. One of the items that I stated, and I kind of fat-fingered that a little bit, we're looking at a maximum of an additional 120 units within this area. So a couple of things that probably need to be brought out. So why are we bringing this to you, and what are we trying to get accomplished? So the current facility over time has aged, as a lot of these sort of parks do. It's an existing allowable use. The owner would like to improve that use as part of our special exception request here this evening. Expanding into this 24 acres to the west of us will do a couple things. One, it'll allow the existing development to be improved. And there'll be some significant improvements done for the existing development. And then having the additional sites to the west then will open up additional income to be able to not only expand this park, but also to do the improvements within the park. There'll be entry signage, street and traffic control signage will be added, improved. There's going to be landscaping of the entryway and around the lake, flagpoles and fountains in the lake, road repairs and paving. There's going to be an electrical upgrades. There's going to be some playground equipments, grills and benches, so some open space for the residents. Some new mailbox stations with covered shelters and lighting, some gazebos, fishing piers for the lake. Clubhouse is going to be rebuilt. We talked about the school bus drop-off, which is a huge, was a huge concern of ours as we were going through the process, or through this process. And then we're going to, and what we've got in the current development, we see a similar lot size, street layout and so forth, utility layout on the 24 acres to the west. One of the items that we just received as I walked in this evening was from the fire department. They talked about roadways within the development and water supply. I've read through these. As I've said at many meetings before, we don't design it at meetings, but everything that we see within their request or requirements, I don't believe those are going to be a problem for us to take care of. So I just wanted to point that out. One item I did not mention is that the current property is zoned ag, AG, and so not only the current park, but as well as the 24 acres to the west. We have received several letters from industrial developers saying that they really need workers and they really see the expansion of this mobile home park being a benefit to what is going on within the area. We have received a letter from the Indiana Manufactured Housing Association, as well as a letter from Mike Dellinger from the Economic Development, Morgan County Economic Development. I believe those are all in your packet. I just wanted to point that out. So we have a lot of favorable comments from people. As I said, we've talked with Monrovia Schools. I have talked with Kurt Freeman at Monrovia Schools and had positive input from him, and he was very happy that we worked with the transportation people with regards to unloading and loading students off of Greencastle Road. I believe right now, unless you have any additional comments, that's kind of an overview, kind of what I wanted to present. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have and hear from the rest of the audience.
Thank you. Questions from the board
Are you
members?
going to have any land out there for wildlife and leave any agricultural land or anything for birds and rabbits and anything like that?
Well, not agricultural because the ground is.
Well, any kind of ground.
Yeah. So
wildlife areas.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So this area right here is kind of a ravine and wooded area that's going to be protected. So this will continue to stay just as it is. There is actually a large transmission line that runs through the property here, actually a underground pipeline as well. This will stay as green area. As you can see, there's a lot of wooded area around the property itself. So, and then of course the lake itself, and you can see all this area right here. So, yes, sir.
What about fire hydrants?
Right now, there are no fire hydrants.
And?
Like I said, we need to get with the fire department and with Hill Water and see how we deal with that if we need to deal with that.
How big of wide are the streets that's going to be in there? The reason why I say that Echo Lake was basically, that goes back many years old. Driving through there, the streets are, with new fire equipment that's coming out more and more every day, getting bigger and better and everything else, as well as all safety equipment. Even the ambulances are 5 times bigger than what they was, 50 years ago. Are you going to make the streets any wider than what you've got out there already to accommodate for some of that? Because, accessibility to get in and out of there, as well as emergency situations for people to get out.
Right, right. We will design the streets to the standards that we're required to. Will they become wider? I know the existing streets, there are areas that can be widened out, absolutely. We can look at traffic patterns if they're one-way, two-way, and so forth. So the expectation is to go in, to upgrade and improve.
Yeah. That's the safety factor is what I
Right,
was looking
right.
at. on
And
the other thing.
we'll definitely be talking with the fire department. Like I said, we just got their comments here as I walked in this evening. What we're looking at right now is being able to expand into that 24 acres so that we can start doing that design work for the overall development.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an agreement. We need housing, but we need to do it in a safe, productive manner.
Yes,
For everybody.
absolutely.
On the thing, because that'll help not only our county, but surrounding counties too.
Yes.
I think they need to label the streets better.
Okay, well, if you
Either
heard.
street names or.
Absolutely, and I had stated that is one of the improvements that we're gonna do, because I'm right there with you. I don't know what street
Get in there and drive
we're on.
around forever.
Yes, yep, you are absolutely right.
Is this second time you've been for us? One other time was for the quote-unquote new sewer system or sewer plant.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
The
first.
sewer plant.
The sewer plant, yes.
We handled this one other time. Is this
I-
going to be adequate for this development?
Yes, when first of all, we have to go through IDEM, Indiana Department of Environmental Management, and my understanding is when that was, this plant, the wastewater treatment plant was approved previously, it was built to be able to expand for the additional units. Here again, when we go through the design process, we will need to resubmit to IDEM to make sure we have capacities to be able to take care of those additional units. So yes, sir, we will be doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a whole list of questions here for you, so
Excellent.
bear with me.
Oh, no, that's what we're here for.
The additional land, the 24 acres, is that something that the mobile home park owns now?
Yes.
How long have they owned that land?
I don't know that I can answer that. Rick Ruthke will be up here later, or he can answer that now. Okay.
He's up here, but
Okay.
thank you for that. Bill asked about the sewage treatment plant. You talked about Greencastle Road access. You talked about meeting with the school and talking about the school bus picking up the kids off Greencastle Road, which is a great idea. When I was out there looking at it today, I thought, man, I wouldn't want my kids being out there getting on the bus. I'm sure that Mr., is it Rothke? Am I
Yes.
pronouncing that right? I understand he owns a couple other mobile home communities,
That's correct.
and maybe he can answer this if you can't, but I'm sure there's an estimated number for every 10 mobile homes that are occupied, how many new school-age, community school-age kids that brings in to the community. Do you know what that number is by chance?
I do not, and honestly, we asked the schools if they had a student count, and I have not received that, so I don't know that I can give you the actual number. There might be a rule of thumb, and I will let Mr. Rothke answer that.
I'm just wondering is it going to bring, if you're talking about, let's see, 120 new spots, if each one has 2 kids, it's 240. Is Monrovia's school able to accommodate 240 new kids? Granted, they're not all going to come in at one time, I understand that, but.
If I could answer that particular point, as you can well imagine, there aren't many mobile home expansions that occur. We've been involved with a couple of them. It's just not a type of development that happens in our area of the world right now.
Well, maybe I can ask him a couple questions that might help.
Well, what I was going to do, kind of help, if you would, to put this in context a little bit. When we do, we lost our screen. When we do like single-family housing and residential developments, and here again, there's all different types of housing. The more starter home type housing up to the custom home type housing. We have not had a development where we've had more than 1 to 1.2 students per household on an average, just so you understand that. And most developments are probably half of that. Going back to the wastewater treatment plant discussion, when we do design for sanitary sewers, the state has us design that at 310 gallons per home, which they assume there's 3.1 people per home. How you get 3.1, I don't know, but that's the number that they use. And I can tell you that number is historically high over the last 20 years because home ownership and occupants within homes has decreased significantly. There are a lot more people that are, living by themselves, divorcees, what have you, and we find that it's really probably more the 2.5 range or lower. So if that helps you any.
Thank you. Asked about the fire department access. I think I'm okay with that for now, at least the answer that was given. That west property line up here along that
Here?
Yeah, field, or it looks like home lots for Greencastle Drive, and I didn't drive back there today when I was out there looking at the property, and I wish I had. But how long is that line from from
Here
that
to here?
point to that point? Yes.
Oh, I can probably tell you looking at this.
This shows me
1,273.
1273. Okay.
1,250 feet.
All right.
Per amount.
And just so you know, if you look at an aerial, you would never even know these lots are there, and there is no road built right there. So, at least not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen anything.
What are you referring to there?
This road right here?
Okay, so you're saying it ends at that second residence inn off Greencastle Road?
Yes.
Okay, that was my next question. Are there additional homes in that area now that back up to the proposed expansion?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
And I don't know the history of that development. Maybe there's someone here that, maybe a property owner that might know something.
All right. The new area that you're proposing here on the 24 acres, you
Yes.
talked about paving roads. Would those roads be paved from day one of that new area opening up?
Yes.
Not gravelled like the current park is?
Well, the current park, it's not gravel, it's just deteriorating. How about that?
I would take you to debate on that, but nonetheless, so from day one, those are going to be paved roads?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. You talked about improving the existing park, and you mentioned paving of the roads. I think Jerry brought up additional road signs. You talked about an improvement to a park and a playground area, and I see on your drawing here the school bus stop and the mailbox pickup. Did I miss anything else as far as the new or the existing park improvements?
I just kind of briefly went over all the elements. I don't know if you received our application. Item number 5, we talked about intended proposed property improvements. And there were, a dozen or so improvements, along with some of the other things that we mentioned here this evening.
So when would those things take place? Like you mentioned on here, paint and trim of existing office and rehabilitation. So
right.
As I pulled into that facility today, I came in the road to the east of the lake. And came straight down that road, and there's a
Right
thank
here?
you, right in
Yes.
there. That first building, what is that?
I tell you, The improvements, I will let Mr. Rothke talk about which improvements and
Okay.
and what the existing uses are. That would probably come better from him.
All right. Okay, that's all the notes I had. Sorry, taking so much time on that, gentlemen. Any other questions?
Yeah. How do people get in there? Do they rent those facilities or buy them?
I have the answer to that, but I'm gonna defer to the property owner once again. He's intimately involved with the management. Not that I'm trying to avoid the question, but I would like for him to be able to give you the real answer rather than me trying to.
I'm gonna ask, are they screened when they come in there?
I will let you answer that, have him answer that. How about
Because I
that?
did some checking, and from January 1st, 2020, they had 111 calls for the police up there. But they also said that the management or whatever up there has a good record of getting rid of troublemakers.
Okay. I had not heard that. I was not aware of that. We sent notification to the sheriff's department. We're not given any comments of any sort, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board members?
I have none.
No? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Rick Rothke, am I pronouncing that correctly? I want to get it right, so what was it again?
It's like R-U-T, Rutke,
Rutke.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Rick Rutke, and did you give your address as well?
Please.
1101 North Meridian Street, Indianapolis, 46290.
You signed up to speak. What would you like to tell us first, and then we'll open up for
I did.
questions. Or someone did a good job of forging your name on here.
Oh, I suppose I did, just in case I needed to. We purchased this property, just as a little historical reference, from Herman Baker, who many of you may know. Herman and I actually became good friends over this transaction, and we bought it in 1998, I believe. And then someone had asked a question about how long we'd owned the 24 acres. That was purchased 2 years after we purchased the park. So that would have been 1991, maybe, something of that nature. It was designed that way, to purchase it 2 years later because of taxes for Herman, for Mr. Baker. Our intent was always to keep this a showplace. I don't know how much you know about this, but a lot of the people that I've run into always say, you know, we camped and fished, and that's where we had a lot of our weekends there. And now we're getting those people coming back as retirees, acquiring homes and living there. So it's been kind of an interesting trip. Unfortunately, the cost of maintaining something of this magnitude is so expensive and we want to try to do it right. That's always been my philosophy, and we just finished up a project in Brownsburg where we spent a significant amount of money doing the same exact thing there, adding value, and as a result of that, you're really kind of a mixture of 50-60% retirees and others just normal families or whatever. We don't have many children, but I wish I could tell you that number. I don't. I thought the school system was going to provide that to us. But our intent is to make this project something of a showcase. We've already dredged out the lake once. We're going to do it again at the shallow end and add fountains. We put in one fountain. I underestimated the size of what it should be, so we're going to put in another one and have a couple of fountains, fishing pier, a gazebo. I'm going to we've designed a clubhouse facility for the project for not only our residents to have, get-togethers or whatever, but we've noticed out in that area, unless you go to Plainfield, there's no other place to have things like parties for retirement or graduation or weddings and that sort of thing. So that's our intent, to build the club, which will be over the lake. It'll replace where the old store was and then have a large deck over that and kind of a festive environment, which would be suitable. I took to heart some of the comments that were made about street signage. There's very little street signage there. We're going to do that professionally done and with names, so we'll have to dream up some names, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot to be done there, and we want to be very proud of this facility. This is a facility we've owned for 22 years, and it's family owned, and we intend to keep it that way. A lot of times what happens is people develop these parks or improve them and then sell them out for a large profit. But that's not our intent here. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. We've already done quite a lot of improvement area. We were working, excuse me, with the town of Monrovia initially to do a treatment plant jointly, but the politics and the timing just didn't work out, and we wanted a plant sooner than they were prepared to figure out how they were going to get one. So we built a state-of-the-art treatment plant. This is the best that could be built, and I guess it's now probably 6 or 8 years old, but it has UV treatment, it has all kinds of stuff that I don't understand. But it's very, very good, and it's really over-designed for, I think, 500 spaces with the addition to add on to that. So probably eventually this will become, somebody will come in and take it over as a, as a part of a regional system, I would imagine, at some point. That's what seems to happen at these smaller plants. But I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. The police calls, I'm very sensitive to that. I'm glad that came up because I was unaware of that. I keep track of the police calls, and that's the way I monitor how things are going. And I will tell you this, we screen harder probably than anyone I know. We do not allow felons, I don't know if you can say this anymore, felons, druggies, anything of that nature, and they must be legal as well. I'm not sure if we're going to get in trouble for that, but we screen very, very carefully. Now, what we found in the past is that sometimes families move in and their credit checked, their background checked, and I just don't want any issues of any sort like that. And what happens, we find, is that a child in the family will go haywire, or a little bit, I don't know, whatever you call it, but they get drugs or whatever, or they have a call. But it's pretty rare, but that's the end of it. They're gone. We don't permit it. We don't want it. And so that's the way we handle it. It's maybe a little hard-handed, but we have to think of everybody in the community, not just the family that's going through some problems. So that's it. I hope I've addressed enough questions, or if you have any, please feel free to ask.
Do you have, or have you ever thought about your own security ambassadors to go around the properties there?
No, we've never had that issue. We don't have crime. When I say crime, none that I'm aware of. If that's what you mean?
To help people out and stuff like that,
Oh, yeah, we have, it's not a program.
Somebody falls out of bed, they can come right there without getting an ambulance or something.
I'm not sure, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm following you.
Well, if somebody trips in their house.
Oh.
And
and they come to the office maybe and say, I need patched up.
Well, if you had people riding around, they could be detoured right to their house. Your own first aid people.
Oh, no. Actually, I'm always full of, my wife always says, you're full of ideas and no one to implement. Actually, we're thinking about a program to have kind of a nurse on staff, not staff per se, but a resident nurse, let's call her. Yeah, I've actually considered how to, because sometimes the elderly, they won't know, if they have a problem or not. Yeah, I'm actually contemplating that very thing you're talking about. And I haven't figured it out yet, but I think what we typically do is we offer officers housing, free housing, if they want to live on our property. when I say law enforcement people. And I think I'm going to try to expand that to some type of a nurse. Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that. Yeah, I really want to do that, but it's not something that seems to be getting a lot of traction yet, but I hope it does. Because we have a lot of retirees in our community, many of whom are the end of the Baker family, I'll call it. They were the ones who moved in as kids, and now they're retiring or dying. That's one of the other things I wanted to mention, I guess, is that there's often a strategy for development people when you want to put in new homes and upgrade and so forth. There's a tendency to want to force the older retirees to buy new homes so they don't. If you drive by, you can see we've kind of cleaned out part of the area, so we intentionally have not repopulated. When people pass away, we take care of the homes and dispose of them. But we wanted to do all of our infrastructure work. I've been working with Hill Water. They're getting ready to replace all one section of our property with new water lines. And it's easier if there are no homes on it. So I wanted to do all my construction work and infrastructure work while people weren't living there. But relative to the retirees, and I know it's getting late here, we're letting them stay in place no matter. It's just a philosophical belief I have, and we're not going to make them move. We're not going to make them buy new homes, and it's distractive a little bit aesthetically, but we're trying to kind of keep them in one area over on the west side where most of the older people live.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of in a nutshell. Excuse me for taking so much time going on about this, but I hope it's helpful.
Fine.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Will you be placing the homes in here for people to rent, or will everybody coming into this be bringing their own manufactured home in?
I'm glad you asked me that question because it's something that I'm very sensitive to. No, we don't rent it. We'll not rent any homes, period. What we do, and this is something I'm pretty proud of actually, we work with, I don't know if you're familiar with J.D. Byrider. It's a buy here, pay here kind of car franchise nationally. I'm involved in the School of Business in Indiana on their advisory board, and I was asked to meet with the J.D. Byrider people because they were developing a car lease. This has been many years ago. And they said, you're kind of fiddling with the same idea. So the president of J.D. Byrider and I developed it's an automobile lease. And the strategy, it's really kind of cool because what we do is people come in and we check them for credit. And so if they have good credit and they only have a modest down payment where they can't really buy the home, we lease it to them for 3 years. And what happens during that 3 years, their deposit is applied. The residual, capitalized residual, they call it in the car business, the value of the home comes down, or the purchase price of it. And at the end of 3 years, their credit has gone up because they've made payments on their lease, and they've had enough accrued, if you will, equity to then finance the home and own it. And we provide outside financing for that with banks, and we bring those banks to those people. And I'm pretty proud of that. So it's a first-timer can own a home and then move on up to, excuse my expression, a real home, I call it, not a manufactured home, whatever kind of home they want, they can move on and move up the American way. So I'm really pretty proud of that. We've had, I think, well over 200 homes over the projects we own that we've been able to utilize that strategy with. So it's a good thing.
How long do you anticipate it will take you to fill this new section?
It's a good question. I really want to, this is going to be a deferred kind of development, frankly. The new part, because we have so much work to do in the old park where we vacated all these units when the people pass away and so forth, we'll be filling those first and then moving on over into the new section. But to answer your question, we can do, and this is probably aggressive, but frankly, the demand far exceeds the supply of what we have available in Brownsburg and at Echo Lake, both. I mean, exceedingly more than what we have. We have no homes available for anyone. And what we're finding now, and I don't want to be too presumptuous about this, but other parks, I call them competitive parks, I guess, even though the rents are much, much higher than ours, they're moving homes into our park unsolicited. So, but I think if you can do, if you can sell 5 units a month, that's very good. I would say that. So, however that balances out, it'll be several years, a couple years to fill probably. And I'm probably being pessimistic a little bit, but I like to be safe than sorry. But there'll be a terrific demand for this, both as retirees and as all the projects down on State Road 39. I don't know if you've seen all that stuff going on out there at Highway 70 and 39. All those developers, I know personally, they're national developers, and they're working with me on another project. I have a large distribution project at UPS Worldport in Louisville, and so that's the reason they knew me. And when I was asking about housing, we were meeting on our Louisville project, they said, well, yeah, we absolutely desperately need housing. And Plainfield's the same way. They've actually asked us to do a project over there, somewhat similar to this. And Jeff's been involved with me on that. And we have not done it yet, but we're looking at it.
How many of these developments do you have?
I have 4 left. I'm kind of older, so I had 15 at one time, and I'm down to the 4 I want to keep, I think.
All locally around in
Yes.
five-county area?
I only deal in Indiana, and I particularly enjoy dealing in Plainfield, Brownsburg, and this area here. So it's west side I'm primarily focused in. Louisville, we had projects up north, but they were smaller, and I have one still up north, but we're getting ready to sell it now. So we'll be down to 3 that we will actually just keep.
One other question to ask you on this thing. Do you have standards for the qualifications of the units that you're bringing in there, the minimum size of them and the maximum size they're allowed and stuff? Do you have that recorded here at the clerk's office or anything?
No, it's not required, but they're typically fairly predictable. They're 1,200 to 1,800 square feet normally. Okay. Sometimes they go up to a couple thousand. That would be a big home. If that answers the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
My last question, do you have like a company store in the facility where people can get groceries?
We did, and the gentleman passed away. And, we've actually been talking about that because it was kind of popular. It had pizzas and, just limited. As you know, there's very little grocery service there. The IGA, I think, is down there in Monrovia. And it's a little distance away. And so we may incorporate that into our clubhouse. We're trying to see if that fits or doesn't fit. But yes, we used to, and it was pretty good. They also sold bait, and they had hot dogs and hamburgers down below, and that was a grill when Herman had the property. But yeah, we are kind of flirting with that idea to bring back a limited supply of things,
Like milk and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Milk, eggs, bread, the standard orange juice maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's probably too much information, so I apologize. Taking all your time.
Hang
gentlemen.
around, we'll talk all night.
I'm sorry?
We'll send out for a pizza, we'll keep talking.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to.
Right along here, Kenny Hale, did you want to come up and address
Thank
the board? Thank you.
I'm just here supporting Rick and his endeavor. I've been working with him a few years before I stepped down, and Rick's a gentleman, and I really got to know him and appreciate his philosophy and how he does things and treat people. We definitely need all type of housing, all type of price point housing, and I'm speaking as an economic development member for Morgan County, and I'm in support of this project. So be more than glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Doug, is it Baker? At 12578 North Gasburg Road? Yes, sir. Okay.
I'm Doug Baker. Just to be honest, my granddad and my dad built the park. I poured a lot of concrete over there when I was a kid. I guess what I want to say is I'm not here against anything, or I want to address some things. I'm a lifelong resident of right over there. So I've been at this a long time, or it's getting to be longer. Things change, areas change, we all know that. It's coming to my area. I didn't think it would, or maybe, but things have changed. You know, I swam a lot in that lake. I have my best friends there. I met my wife. She lived there. So, I mean, it's a community. Lots of things going on in that part of the world that maybe we don't like to see, but I think they're coming, irregardless of what I think. Basically, when it comes down to it, I'm just a farmer. But one of the things I do want to say is I sincerely hope that this county and you men have it in your mind to make sure that the traffic's an issue. Y'all try moving a 6-row corn planter down Greencastle Road. It's not our combine. But you know, maybe them things are fast becoming a thing of the past. But it's a nice area, and I'm glad it was brought up that the environmental part from where the wildlife and all that goes. So I just ask that all this, that everybody takes it serious in the way that they think about it or what they approve. And I want the county to be ready for, you know, maybe there's a plan for the roads and the traffic. I don't know, but if there isn't, there ought to be. Other than that, like I said, I've lived there all that my life. Probably, I remember when most of the neighbors that I got now weren't there. So, but my dad, they moved out there in 1946, and he said this was the wilderness, son. And Indianapolis was a world away. But he said it, and my dad's been gone for several years now, but he says, we never thought it'd get where we're at, and I think it's coming. So I think all those things should be taken into consideration. Rick's been nothing but good to my family. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions from the board members? No? Thank you. Terry Brock?
He's still here?
It's Terry Brock. I live at 12842 North Oak Haven Drive in Canby. I'm up here just to speak on economic development. I've been on that board for 14, 15 years now. Every time we talk to any kind of factory or company wants to come in, they talk about available workers, and we don't have them. And they fit into that price range for that with our workers. I'm just, I support it. We need this type of housing in the county. But it's just something that we really need. He was talking about Plainfield and Monrovia area. Mooresville needs it badly. Tola would expand if they can get the workers. They just can't get the workers. And they're shipping workers in. So I just want to speak in support of it.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members?
Thanks.
No? Thank you. Christopher Stevens?
Christopher Stevens. I live on 653 West Greencastle Road, Mooresville. I guess just to reiterate what Doug had said is the traffic. Like I said, I mean, we've said all these things. It's going to be great about the warehouses getting filled up with workers and so on.
I lived there, my father's lived there, next door to me, or I live next door to him, actually. But we lived there my whole life. We can't even walk across the street to our mailbox, without, standing there for a good 15 minutes, without, endangered. And don't talk about Gasburg and Hammer Road. So, there's an ambulance down there at least. So just the traffic and everything else coming out of Echo Lake, the entrance he's talking about that's closed off, that's on the bottom of a hill, so that's going to be a problem. The other exits are the same way. The one at the first entrance is on a hillside. If he opens that up, it's going to be at the bottom of the hill. The next one's at the top of the hill, so it's going to be blinded. You know what I mean? So if you're coming up on the top of the hill, if you're turning out, you got a lot of warehouse traffic. You got Mooresville traffic. It's just going to be a nightmare in my mind. And plus, he talks about the store opening up. So that's a great idea. But that's just more people. I mean, it's just more traffic. It's just more, I don't know. I don't know. I think they can do what they need to do on the park that's already existing, work on that. If they got money to develop that, they can fix the problem with that. That's my opinion, so that's all I got.
Did
Thank
you
you.
say Hammer Road?
Yes, Hammer
Like
and
the old
Gasper.
Car wash road?
Yes, it's actually the other end of it. Yeah, Car Wash Road, yes, exactly.
Okay.
But it's just, that's an intersection that Ludeman's Lake is right there as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, from a kid growing up, from so on, I've seen many fatalities there. And that's when I was a kid. I wasn't even driving at that time, so, and it just keeps continuing. I mean, you can say a stoplight, you can put a speed bump, it doesn't matter. In my opinion, it's just more traffic, more people not paying attention. I just think that's just the way it's gonna be.
I'll pass some of your quotes over to the sheriff and maybe we'll get some radar out there.
I would love it. I mean, I pull out of there at 5 in the morning and about get ran over, so, and that's before this.
Is there any particular time of the day that you notice the traffic is heavier?
Yeah, it's a whole day, yeah. And that's my opinion. I believe this is a great thing, but with right next to Ted Everett's on 39, they got 2 mile-long warehouses. And then not everybody's gonna be coming from 70. So where are they gonna go? They're gonna go 42 or Greencastle.
Yeah.
So that's a mile long, 2 of them. Not counting Chewy, not counting Johnson & Johnson, not counting, and that's all Hendricks County. So they passed that through, but not everybody's gonna be, they're gonna be coming from Heartland Crossing, cutting through Greencastle, not counting this. So I don't know, I guess, I'm just one person, one voice, but I figured,
We're losing our county.
yeah, so, I mean, I live here and I enjoy it and I plan on retiring here, so.
Thanks a lot.
Is your house on the map up there on the?
Yes, it's actually, if you see the amber, if you just
Can
go.
you jump up there and touch where your
Yeah.
place is?
He has a laser pointer.
Oh, there you go. Oh, right there. Whoa, my hand's shaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
My
Thank you
hand's
very much.
shaking.
Yeah, I'm like.
Because you just drove here over Greencastle Road.
Exactly, that's what it was. It's not.
Debbie Montz.
Oh.
There, Debbie Montz. Am I pronouncing that right?
Debbie Montz, my address is 13174 North Gasburg Road. I don't actually live adjacent to the park, but my maiden name is Baker. So my grandfather also built the park. My mother lives directly across from the park. I guess the only thing I want to add is that my grandpa and my dad and my mom knew that this was, sorry, I get nervous, knew that this was the long-term plan when they sold them that piece of ground. So this doesn't really come as a surprise to our family. So I don't think that it's really right to oppose it. And I would still be opposed to it if we hadn't been pleased with the way Mr. Rutke had operated the park. You know, he's been very, like my brother said, he's been very good to our family. And I think he's done a good job of keeping the, I don't know what I'm trying to say, what my grandpa and my dad's vision, the way they tried to, you know, keep good quality people in there. I think he's done well in honoring their legacy. So that's all I want to say.
All right, thank
Thank you.
you. Questions from the board?
Done.
No.
Good thing, because she's already on her way back to the seat. How about Heather? And Heather, I apologize. Who's Heather? All right, thank you very much. That's exactly how I was going to pronounce it.
So, I live at 1218 West Greencastle Road. The only thing I would say, and it's probably doesn't have to do with Echo Lake, but the traffic, like they have said, it is a racetrack out there. It's not wide enough to bring any of their farm equipment down, and just bringing in, you know, more of the mobile homes and the people, it is going to be a problem. So just kind of keep that in mind, that if you're doing any improvements, think of Greencastle.
Is your house on the map here?
My house, I don't have my glasses on now. Like here, there's this little bitty North Greenbaker Lane. We have a long drive that goes right back there.
Okay, so you're right, you're across the road a little bit to the west of it then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see it
All right.
from our house. That's all.
Questions from the board members?
How long have you lived out there?
I've lived in Morgan County my whole life, graduated from Monrovia High School. My mom has a farm out in Stiles Road. I've been in this particular house for the past 4.5 years.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Gentlemen? No? Thank you very much. Frank Montz? Debbie say everything you were going to say? Okay. Very eloquently as well. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
She said everything you're allowed to say, right?
Whoa. You can't talk unless I ask you to come up here and speak. And it's not because I'm trying to be the big man. That's how we kind of maintain some decorum. It's apology accepted. Doug Banks? Or no? Doug, what was your name? Baker. Come on up, Doug. You got something real quick you want to say? You can come back up and say it. Well, come up here and do it from the microphone so we get it on the record.
I didn't ask where I live. I'm a little sad about that. But my family still owns a farm directly across from the park on Greencastle Road. And we own all the farm that borders it on the south side off of Gasburg Road where I live. So I just wanted to clarify and make sure that was known instead of me just up here rambling on.
We know where you live.
I think I know I had kind of a flavor for, you lived really close there, so.
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure I got my chance pointed out.
Well, you've got it.
If it helps any,
You want to point
I know
at it
where
with
you
a
lived
laser
at.
pointer, you're welcome to.
It's too much to point out.
Okay.
If it helps any at all, I know where you lived at.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to ask Mr. Banning to come back up and give us a brief wrap-up and maybe answer questions that the board members may have here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I know traffic is definitely an issue out here. Actually, I was out riding my bike. I think Mr. Stevens was talking about traffic. Out riding my bike on Greencastle Road, if you can imagine this, on Saturday morning. Came down Hammer Road. I hate that they took away the water crossing on that. My kids hate that too, the car wash. But anyway, he's absolutely right. Saturday morning, there was not much traffic. I rode out to the interchange, if you can imagine this, took my life into my own hands, out around the warehouse buildings. Traffic is going to be an issue. It's currently an issue. And if you look at the comprehensive plan, not only what Morgan County has, but what Hendricks County and Plainfield are looking at, there's a proposed interchange probably right around the Gasburg Road area. So, I'm not, downplaying the traffic issue. It's definitely something that we need to work with. I was going through the comprehensive plan. I don't know what the classification of the roadway is. Laura might help me. I think it was an arterial, minor arterial. So it is set up to carry traffic, and given where the terminus points are of that roadway, it's just something as a county, as Mooresville, Monrovia grow, as this interchange happens in the future, it's just something that's going to be dealt with, and we'd like to think with what we're doing with making some of the changes at our entryway that we're helping, at least from a safety standpoint. I think that was the main thing. Here again, I just want to reiterate, what we're trying to do is to expand the park so that we can improve the existing park. That allows us to, increase the value of the area, increase the looks of the area. And we believe that we've met the 3 criteria, as you can see in what we had submitted. And we'd respectfully request approval of this action. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Who live up around Greencastle? Is that what you said?
Greencastle Road.
You live up around here?
Okay, I have to say this a lot. I have a Mooresville address, but I live in Hendricks
Okay,
County.
so you live in the county?
I live in Hendricks County, but
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm right north of the county line. What can I say? I have a Mooresville address.
Want to get on their county commissioner to see about widening that road.
Oh, well,
And I think the commissioner up here is Don Adams.
I know Don. I can absolutely talk to Don. Yes.
You're free.
Thank you. Anything else?
Any other questions from the board members?
No.
Keith, you got anything?
All right,
Have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We've had everyone up to speak that signed up to speak. At this point, we'll close our public meeting and enter into the public hearing portion of our application this evening. This is an application for a special exception. In order for the board to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant has met 3 findings of facts. The first being that the special exception will not create an unnecessary hardship on surrounding property because, and the applicant has written, currently the surrounding properties are used for agricultural purposes to the west and south and are zoned ag. Property to the east is zoned R4 and currently abuts the existing mobile home park. The existing mobile home park will be improved, modernized, and upgraded. Number 2, the special exception will not affect property values in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant writes, the surrounding properties are already within proximity to the mobile home park, and the mobile home park expansion will add updated amenities and mobile home units to the area, as well as the improvements and modernization. And lastly, number 3, the special exception will not set a precedent for that zoning district because, and the applicant has written, expansion and improvements are intended to be made specifically for the current mobile home park and the additional ground abutting to the west. For technical reports, the health department states they have no objections to the proposed special exception as long as the existing wastewater treatment plant is adequate for the proposed expansion. From the surveyor, they've submitted a report but made no comments in addition to that. For the staff recommendation, they have written a special exception is a permitted use that requires BZA review and approval in the event additional requirements need to be provided as a part of that approval. Staff would like to request that the 3 different entrance/exits on Greencastle Road be reconfigured to force existing vehicles to only use the eastern exit. This would lengthen the line of sight for those exiting the development. The west entrance is positioned closest to the crest of the hill on Greencastle, which severely limits the line of sight for exiting vehicles. Increasing the tapers adjacent to those entrances should also offer increased safety for those entering and exiting. Because the mobile home park has been there for 70 years, there is a very substantial tree buffer between the park and Greencastle Road, so additional screening already exists. The 24 acres being added is also buffered by existing trees, which makes the closest dwellings about 500 feet from the road. This special exception fits the recommendations in the county's comprehensive plan for land use intensity, but more importantly, it also supports the goal of providing a variety of housing opportunities for all residents of Morgan County. Affordable housing options are extremely limited, not just in Morgan County, but everywhere in the region. If the county wants to encourage economic growth, then county officials should make every effort to support housing options that are being proposed in the exact area the county has planned for them to go. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the special exception request with the provision that the petitioner agrees to reconfigure the entrances to improve the line of sight for vehicles entering and exiting the park. Open for discussion.
I would like to, I guess through a show of hands, how many people know where McCracken Creek and the Watson property is there? The McCracken Creek crosses Greencastle. There's a subdivision in there. I used to run that. So if you dislike the traffic, I guess you're going to dislike me, but everything you said I have to agree with. It is wicked to cross the road. It's wicked to be on it. I do know that the police department has a radar system that sees over the hill and through the trees, so that does help a little bit, because I watched them nail some suckers out there one day. But when I ran it, the park was always a good neighbor.
Other discussion, comments?
I agree with the situation. They talk about the traffic problem on Greencastle Road. It is, that is a nightmare sometime even driving through there. There's a lot of, you got to be on your guard going through there, because you never know what's going to pull out and what's not going to pull out and stuff. I think the staff recommendation of working on the entrance there to make it better, to get traffic in and out there would be a must, but I think it's a good overall project for the area and the county.
Laura, has the entrance exit been resolved to staff's, to what staff is requesting? Thank you. Other discussion?
No.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I've said this before, kind of the right thing in the right place, and it's been owned by the applicant for 30 years, and that was the intent. Seems like that was known, at least by some of the residents out there in the area. And I appreciate, and I'll speak for the board, we appreciate people coming out and letting us know what you're concerned about, because it's the only chance we have to try and do something about it. And we always talk about gives and gets here, and it seems like we've got a good community with somebody who actually cares about how they run the facility. And I was impressed. I've been through there a few times, but most recently this afternoon, and was impressed by how well-kept the community was in general. I'll take you to task on those roads actually being paved back there. I didn't get that feeling. Nonetheless, it's great to hear those kind of comments from, even though you're here maybe opposed or at least interested in it, that you acknowledge that they're doing the right things out there with what they have. And I agree with staff's recommendation. I was part of the group that helped with the comprehensive plan, and that's one of the areas that we identified for growth, to take advantage of growth that's already happening across the county line there. And the need for that type of housing certainly exists, and I would be in full support of this application approval. Any other comments?
You covered the bases pretty well.
Open for a motion?
I would like to move we approve the request made by Jeff Banning on behalf of Rick, and I'm not going to pronounce his last name, in petition SE-21-02 for a special exception approval to allow expansion of the mobile home park in an ag-zoned district located at 825 West Greencastle Road in Monroe Township, Morgan County, Indiana. The motion is made for the reasons stated in the following finding the facts. The special exception will not create an unnecessary hardship surrounding the property because A, the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. Number two, the exception will not affect property values in a substantially adverse manner because A, the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. Three, the special exception will not set a precedent for that zone district because A, the reasons stated in the finding of facts. And my motion includes the following conditions: to make sure the school buses do not load or unload on the road. Number two, to help change the entrances and exits on Greencastle Road. That's all.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve with two conditions. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. McGrath. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. It's approved. Thank you very much. Mr. Peden, do we have a BZA attorney's report this evening?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No? Ms. Parker, do we have a plan director's report this evening? We will have a meeting next month. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, any other business to be conducted in front of the board this evening?
I have none.
Nothing.
Open for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
Yeah.
Second, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.